She knew these mountains like the back of her hand. She'd hunt and trap here since childhood and could navigate the terrain that would leave most people hopelessly lost. Investigators, however, had one question that they couldn't answer. How does someone who can't get lost simply disappear? Welcome to Buried Archives. We dig into cases that were never meant to be found. If you are new here and you enjoy the videos, make sure to subscribe. So, let's get straight to it. The Togwotee Pass cuts through the mountains of northwestern Wyoming, a rugged and beautiful stretch of wilderness near the town of Du Bois. Its mountains are remote and treacherous, especially if you don't know what you're doing. But for Olga Schultz, she knew exactly what she was doing. Born on March 11, 1913 in Lead, South Dakota, Olga had grown up in this region. She was an avid outdoorswoman, hunting, fishing, and trapping. She knew the ravines, the game trails, the hidden paths that wounded through the mountains. She was also a trained stenographer, so she was generally very smart and is capable of taking care of herself. At 21 years old, she was described as a striking young lady with red hair and blue eyes. Just a couple of weeks earlier, Olga got married. She married a man named Olga Mauger, an oilman from the booming town of Midwest Wyoming. They were captivated by each other's romance, which ended up in a wedding on September 11, 1934 in Harrison, Nebraska. Now, 6 days into their honeymoon, the newlyweds were doing something Olga absolutely loved. They were hiking on a mountain, hunting for elk. It was the best time of her life until things took a turn for the worst. On the morning of September 17, 1934, Carl and Olga planned to set out from their camp at Floyd's Tolnoga hunting lodge, which was about 36 miles from Du Bois. Olga wore a blue shirt, a grey pullover sweater, and high-laced boots. In her belt was a small hatchet, and she carried a bag of sandwiches and about $30 in cash. The couple had been hiking for miles when Olga said something unusual. "Carl, I'm tired. I want to rest." Now this struck Carl as strange, because Olga loved the woods. She was always up for a hike. Fatigue was never like her. But he didn't think much of it. Carl suggested that he climb the ridge to scout for elk while Olga waited, and she agreed, as she sat on a rock that was near the hiking trail. Now do remember, this spot wasn't remote. In fact, it was within hearing distance of cars passing on the Togwotee Pass road. He turned to check on his wife as he climbed the ridge, and there she was, sitting on the rock, waiting and feeling exhausted. He was gone for no more than 20 to 30 minutes, and when he came back down, he was caught off guard. He started pacing back and forth, trying to decide what to do while on the verge of panicking. Olga was gone. She had disappeared. Carl searched for her frantically. He called her name, scanned the tree line. He walked back and forth screaming, "Olga, where are you?" But there was nothing. There was no sign of Olga, no footprints, no indication of where she might have gone. He rushed to the camp and reported her missing. Ranger Casey Allen was one of the first ever officials to respond, and in his journal, he noted receiving a call about a lost lady. Ranger Allen met Carl at Stolnoga Hunt Camp, and he listened to Carl's story over and over and over again. They didn't fight or have a reason for her to leave. As Allen later wrote, Olga was an expert in the forest and everyone knew she couldn't get lost. So now it has been over 3 days after Olga's disappearance, and the searchers had to abandon their efforts because a snowstorm swept in through the west and through the mountains. County Attorney Wilford told the Montana newspaper that there was little to no hope the woman would be found because of the snow. But the authorities weren't ready to give up that soon. So on October 7, 1934, headlines from Helena, Montana read, "Posse seeking missing woman, husband under suspicion." Carl Mauger was brought in for questioning. He was held there for months, but his story never changed. Eventually, Carl was released under the technical custody of his brother-in-law, Fred Schultz. He even returned the following year with two of Olga's brothers to continue searching for his missing wife, but they found nothing. Plus, the circumstances surrounding Olga's marriage made everything much more complicated. See, Carl Mauger had a secret. Before he met Olga, he had been dating this woman Ella Thatch for 5 to 6 years. Ella had been eager to get married, but Carl kept putting her off, saying he needed more time and financial stability. Then at a dance the couple was attending to, Carl saw Olga and he immediately knew she was the one. Olga was striking, young and charismatic. From that moment on, Carl and Olga began a whirlwind romance. Within weeks, they were married, and Ella, she was absolutely devastated. Accounts differ about what happened next. Some sources say Ella sent a hateful letter over being backstabbed by her long-term boyfriend. But Ranger Allen paints a different story. According to him, Olga and Ella were essentially friends even after the wedding, and it was Olga who wrote to Ella expressing guilt for supposedly stealing Carl. Something about this marriage just didn't feel right. According to Edith Thompson, Olga's own sister, Olga regretted her decision, marrying Carl almost immediately. While Olga was packing for her honeymoon, she begged her sister to come along with them. She also noted that Olga's expression was not like that of a new bride. She looked broken. However, Carl's account never wavered. He left Olga sitting on a rock within earshot of the highway. He climbed a ridge to scout for elk. He was gone for less than 30 minutes, and when he returned, she was gone. He told this story to Ranger Allen. He told it to the investigators, he told it to the press, and he told it to Olga's family. It never changed. Investigators held him for months, but they couldn't get anything of foul play out of him. No weapons, no blood, no a body. And on August 1935, it was announced that the search has been discontinued for the present time, and Carl, he was eventually released. Olga's sister had a theory. She believed that Olga simply got cold feet. She regretted marrying Carl, saw an opportunity to escape and hitchhike out of the area to start a new life. Technically, it wasn't impossible, and Olga had about $30 in cash, which was a pretty big sum in 1934. She was a trained stenographer who could easily find work anywhere. She was young, capable, and independent. Edith said that she walked to the mailbox every single day expecting a letter from Olga explaining everything. But unfortunately, none ever came. 7 years after Olga vanished, Carl took legal action. He filed for divorce from the missing wife and remarried the woman he had been dating for 6 years before Olga, Ella Thatch. Carl and Ella moved to Redding, California. By all accounts, they lived a long and quiet life. Unfortunately, however, Carl passed on in 1978 at the age of 72. Ella lived up till 92, passing on March 19, 1998. Neither of them ever spoke publicly about what happened on Togwoti Pass. So it begs the question, what happened to Olga Mauger? If you have made it to the end of the video, and if you are new here, please consider subscribing. And if you have any thoughts on the case, theories, or even any details that I miss, please feel free to drop them in the comments. And thank you for watching.